We explained the history behind Japanese annexation and Korean wine, and then we show you the different kind of traditional Korean wine and some of their characteristics. So stay on the video till the end, then you'll be able to see some real Korean traditional wine. The Japanese annexation of Korea officially lasted from 1910 to 1945, but there were a lot of measures taken by the Japanese from the late 19th century, of course. 35 years is not a very short period of time, and the Japanese, of course, had a lot of influence on Korean culture, food, and language. They brought bigger changes to the Korean society than the amount of changes that will usually take over 35 years of time. This is because Japanese executed a lot of measures to demolish the Korean tradition, language, and culture. For example, they did not allow Korean language in the schools in the Korean peninsula. They forced Koreans to change their names to Japanese. Some claim that Korean wine or alcohol drinks was also affected by Japanese. They claim that the alcohol tax law passed in 1916 aimed to demolish Korean wine or alcohol drinks. Did Koreans or Joseon people drink a lot of alcohol? Oh yes, definitely. Korean drank alcohol drinks instead of tea in Joseon dynasty. Tea culture was huge in Silla and Goryeo dynasties, which existed in the Korean peninsula before Joseon, and the tea culture was enriched because the two countries were all Buddhist countries. But unlike the two countries, Joseon was a Confucius-based country, and they took measures to pressure Buddhism. As a result of that, the tea culture sort of faded away in the process, and people started to drink alcohol drinks even at daytime to replace the tea. The wine or alcohol drink culture in the Joseon dynasty was said to be so huge and rich that there are said to have been over 1,000 different kinds of wine in Joseon. And each household in Joseon actually had their own recipes to make their family's traditional wine. But the Japanese alcohol tax law prevented Koreans from making wine or alcohol drinks at home. Only the factories were allowed to make alcohol drinks after they've been authorized to produce the drinks by the Japanese government. Most of the factories that were authorized were Japanese. They made wines in the Japanese way. And because Koreans had such a huge drinking culture, the companies thrived. Japanese received a lot of tax. Those that disagree with Japanese having the intention to demolish Korean traditional wine or drinks claim that such measures was introduced merely to collect more tax, and that tax on alcohol was often placed on different countries as well, in a situation like Japan was in at the time. And they claim that the reason why Korean traditional wine disappeared was because its production process was inefficient. This is exactly the claim that the Japanese made during their annexation of Korea. But the fact is, there was a very, very rich wine and alcohol drinking culture and making culture in Joseon dynasty. And if the culture was so big, it could not have been inefficient enough to totally disappear or to demolish. And when considering all the measures Japanese took against all aspects of Korean cultures, it is probably logical to say that they at least had an implicit intent to demolish Korean wine. Some of the Korean wine and alcohol drinks were passed on, and it still remains in Korea. All Korean wine are produced from rice or different kinds of grains. As I've explained on the previous soju video, soju was produced after several stages of processing, so it was usually the royal family or the rich people that drank soju. Makgeolli or takju was the most common drink in Joseon. Takju means murky alcohol drink. Takju is produced by fermenting malted rice. Cheongju, or what is now called yakju, is produced by filtering out the rice particles from the fermented drink and sorting out the clear alcohol from the drink. Cheongju means clear alcohol drink. Makgeolli was the most common drink, and Cheongju was the next, and soju was very, very high class in the Joseon dynasty. These are different kinds of makgeolli or takju. You can see that they are clear on the top, but they have some rice particles in the bottom. We usually shake the drink before drinking and make it milky like this. Makgeolli is still one of the cheapest traditional wines. It's about the same price or a little more expensive than the non-traditional diluted soju. These are cheongju or yakju. You can see that cheongju is transparent but has a color to it. Not all cheongju are like that. This cheongju doesn't have any color at all. But you can see that yakju is different from soju because all soju, like these, as you can check it out on our previous video, are transparent with no colors at all. Cheongju or yakju are usually more expensive than makgeolli, but cheaper than traditional soju. And makgeolli is a little less than 10% alcohol, whereas yakju or cheongju is around 13% alcohol. This is significantly lower than the traditional soju, which is usually over 20% and even 40% alcohol. We usually pour the makgeolli into a bowl and drink it. The makgeolli are usually sweet or bitter, and the sweetness of the makgeolli differs depending on whether they have additives or what kind of grains they've used. All yakju has a different taste, but the taste is not as rich as the traditional soju, but is richer than the diluted soju. Subscribe to our channel and like our videos. It really helps us make better videos.